The Canadian dollar has weakened in comparison to the US dollar. This morning, one Canadian dollar was worth only 71 cents US, which is the lowest the dollar has traded since the start of the pandemic in early 2020. In fact, only twice in the last 20 years has a dollar weakened so significantly. A weak dollar impacts the economy in a variety of ways, from the cost of goods we import to our own export opportunities south of the border and elsewhere. Joining us now to discuss the impact of a weaker dollar is Brendan Caldwell, director at Caldwell Securities Ltd. Brendan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Julie. Always great to talk about the loonie.
So, what are some of the factors contributing to a weaker Canadian dollar?
Well, I could say it's this or that or the other, and all of them will be true, and I'll go over all of them. But basically, Canada, relative to our neighbors to the south, has lost confidence in ourselves as a country and as an economy. And this manifests in a lot of ways. And the dollar is a measure of so many different things, but confidence in a nation and its economy is one of the primary ones. And if we've lost confidence in ourselves, how can we expect the rest of the world who might be net buyers of our currency to have confidence in us as well? So, I mean, some specific factors. Interest rates are the single largest determining factor. The higher interest rates, all other things being equal, the more robust your currency is likely to be. Flip side of it is, if you're, as a central bank of a country, cutting rates, as the Bank of Canada has been doing, and you're doing it faster than the countries off which you compare, and pretty much the only currency the loonie is ever compared to is the greenback, is the US dollar. If we're cutting rates faster than the US dollar, that's going to have an impact. Now, Canada does have a saving grace in that we are a major exporter of energy, but we've been eviscerating that industry for so many years now that we are still the world's only normal petrocurrency. That is to say, currency that's propped up by the price of oil or the price of energy. After us comes Mexico, and then Venezuela, and then Nigeria. Well, Norway's probably somewhere in there. But then after that, the rabbit hole goes very deep through countries that are either dysfunctional or hate us badly. So oil props up the price of the Canadian dollar. And if you see the price of oil weakening because of a slower global economy, you're likely to see our dollar weaken as well. There, I'm done monologuing.
So, you've talked about oil and everything, but how does this affect the economy generally?
Well, to a point, a weaker dollar can be a good thing. Many countries try and get their dollar a little weaker so they have some marginal advantage. If it's cheaper to employ people, like we have been doing in Southeast Asia for decades now, because their economy isn't as robust and employees don't cost as much and the currency is a little weaker, then okay, good. It might be at the margins helpful in getting people to outsource to your country or to import from your country. If your cost of goods produced in Canadian dollars is cheaper, then it gives you a bit of an advantage when exporting. And we're a big exporter. And if, as is the case of Canada, much of what you export is denominated in US dollars and the US dollar is stronger, that helps at the margins. But as I think you alluded to in your introduction, it also makes goods from overseas, and virtually all the finished products that we buy here in Canada, from your iPhone to your car, most of those are made somewhere else, and we're paying for them in the currency of that nation, one way or the other. So having a weak Canadian dollar does make it more difficult for the Canadian consumer.
So, how about the stock market? Does a weaker Canadian dollar have an impact on the stock market?
Not, I would say, directly. It does help in as much as if you're a public Canadian company and your revenues are in American dollars and yet all your expenses are Canadian dollars, that should help your bottom line, should prop up profitability. But only to a point. Anything taken to its absurdity comes back to haunt you. And a dollar that's a little bit weaker, great. But if dollar that's seen as coming down and down and down, nobody's going to want to build a plant or invest or anything if they see us, with no offense to our countries south of the Rio Grande. If we see us as the next Mexico or Central or South American country, if we do not have confidence in ourselves and our currency, then it does actually, beyond a certain point, diminish people's willingness to invest in Canada. So slightly weaker, no bad thing. A massive downward trend, not a good thing. And Trudeau the first got our Canadian dollar down into the 60s. I'm hoping by the end of his premiership, our current Trudeau Prime Minister doesn't see us with a 60-something cent Canadian dollar as well.
Brendan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Julie.